Hello, everybody. It's that time of year again. The transfer window is upon us, and Norwich City have moved early to complete their first signing. Ashley Barnes joins on a free transfer after his contract at Burnley comes to an end, signed as a 2-year deal at Norwich City as part of what they're hoping to be a busy summer for the Canaries. And to give us a little bit of an insight into the man himself, delighted to welcome Chris Boden back onto our channels, former sports editor of the Burnley Express. Chris, as someone who's watched Ashley Barnes for 9 years at Burnley, what do you make of this move? It feels like an interesting step for him. 33 years of age, Norwich City in desperate need of some leadership and mentality. Good deal for both parties, would you say?
I'd say so, yeah. It's probably got to a stage where I think Vincent Kompany was saying it's as good a point as any for him to step down at Burnley on the back of promotion, sort of really hero worshipped at the end by Burnley fans. It sort of had an up-down relationship really, but to end on a high, he scored twice against Blackburn in the derby. Just before the World Cup and kicked on from there really. But I mean, as good a piece of business as Burnley have ever done. It was Sean Dyche's first cash signing, believe it or not. Paid 450 grand for him from Brighton, and I think it's just proved people wrong since then, basically.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because he's obviously got this sort of non-league grounding, hasn't he? Came up through the ranks, started at Poulton Rovers, then obviously went to Plymouth, Brighton, ended up at Burnley. As you said, fascinating that he was Sean Dyche's first sort of cash signing at the club. What is he? I guess that kind of principle of proving people wrong, has that kind of defined him at Burnley over the last 9 years? Because he obviously came in at a time when they were in the Championship. He then obviously went into the Premier League. There's the whole kind of perception of Burnley at that level that they as a club and Sean Dyche and his players needed to overcome. And Ashley Barnes felt like a huge part of that.
Yeah, that's it when he arrived. I'm not knowing if Norwich fans will be aware, but see, Sam Vokes and Danny Ings with the strike pairing. And I think a lot of people thought, well, he's just here for a bit of backup and he'll get help get Burnley over the line to promotion, and didn't really consider him to be a Premier League capable player really. But Ingsy and Sam Vokes both picked up injuries towards the end of the season, and he came in, scored a couple of goals, including one that set them on the way to beating Wigan, the game that sealed promotion. So that was a big goal. And again, the start of the following season, the manager brought in Lukas Jutkovic, and again he was down the pecking order. And I can remember vividly a Burnley fan on my Twitter. It was announced that he was going to start against Hull City. Burnley hadn't won in the first 10 games, and a Burnley fan said, "I'll sleep in the skip outside my house if he scores." And he got the winner, of course. And the Burnley fan slept in the skip outside his house. And he was pretty much played out the season. As a first choice pick that season, and ended in relegation. And he did his cruciate the last game of that season in a win at Aston Villa. So he missed most of the promotion season, the title season, the following year. But him and Chris Wood were terrific together. They played together while at Brighton, and they spearheaded Burnley's push, to finish 7th and finish in Europe. And throughout his time, that was the pairing inevitably that Sean Dyche turned to. And if you look at his record around that time in the top division, I mean, say Norwich fans will remember, what a good job Grant Holt did, and how difficult it was and how well he did to hit double figures in the Premier League. And Barnes was very similar, and a player that no one probably fancied to hit those sort of heights, and he did that with Chris Wood.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said there in terms of him finding himself down pecking orders quite regularly throughout his Burnley career. I remember reading, I've obviously done loads of research over him or on him in the last week or so, and there's a nice quote from him that says, "Look, I know I'm not the best footballer, I'm not the best finisher, but I'm football intelligent, and coaches trust me." And that last point there seems to kind of sum up maybe why he's been able to do that. That trust that Sean Dyche in particular, I guess, because he was predominantly his coach at Burnley, but also Vincent Kompany has had this season as well. He seems to be a player that coaches really trust in terms of performance and in terms of delivering kind of their message on the pitch. And I guess that probably sort of translates to other players. You mentioned Chris Wood there.
Yeah, I think he does himself down, because he's technically a very good footballer. You don't play under, Gus Poyet and Oscar Garcia at Brighton, in those good Brighton teams. He played the left of a three at Brighton. He came to Burnley. He's played left midfield, left of a three. He's played, as a front two on his own. Even this season, he's played as a false nine. So yeah, he's got that football intelligence, and he's almost a throwback. He's just one of those forwards that you can hang your hat on. That even if he's poor on the day, he's going to give you absolutely everything he's got, and he's going to wind up the opposition. And he's one of those players that opposition fans love to hate. And the amount of times in the Premier League where he'd be winding up David Luiz. I remember a few ding dong with Guendouzi at Arsenal, and he's got that in his locker. That ability, he'll win free kicks and he'll put himself about, and he's an absolute nightmare. It must be an absolute nightmare for centre halves because you're going to get that physicality. But I say he is technically good, and he'll be constantly at you.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because I think a lot of Norwich fans are looking at it and going, "Oh yeah, Ashley Barnes, yeah, I can see what he did at Burnley, I like it." But probably looking at it, going, "Oh, he's 33 now." So I mean, what would you kind of say to that? Because he's obviously not where he was, maybe in terms of age, but I think he said recently he still feels fit as a fiddle, and I guess we've seen that with how much he played at Burnley last season and had a really important role in that side as well.
Yeah, so you'd be looking at games this season, and he'd start them, and he'd perform well, and you're thinking, maybe he'll get replaced in, after an hour or so, or in the dying stages, and he invariably stayed on the park because he was that, he was just critical to the way Burnley lined up, and I say fitness has never been an issue. Absolutely, 33 is nothing these days, is it? But he's but. You only have to look if Norwich fans look at some of the goal celebrations and look at how young Nathan Teller and Anas Zarori and Manuel Benson, and look at how they respond to him, and he's almost like a father figure, and they've quite clearly bounced off him in the dressing room, and they've learnt a great deal while playing alongside him. The messages when he came out he was going to leave Burnley, and Stephen Defoe, back in Belgium, he's probably the best Burnley player of this generation, and I think he just referred, he's just legend. To have that sort of that quality of player think that much of you, speaks volumes really. And I say he's ready made. Another challenge in the championship, and I would say I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he spearheads another promotion campaign.
Yeah, and what you've described there is someone who's a winner, right? And that is kind of willing to give everything to win. And I guess there's that need for separation maybe between that on-pitch persona that you spoke about and also that influence that he can have on a dressing room off the pitch and with young players. I mean, that field Norwich have got quite a young group anyway, so that kind of feels like he's an ideal fit to kind of be dropped into there and to help mould some of those young players, but also kind of drag them through games. Norwich have had games this season where they've kind of conceded a goal and really struggled to show the character to respond. It kind of feels like he's a player who might be able to help them with that particular problem.
Oh, I'm positive of that. He'll galvanise the group. He'll be very much the leader of that group. No, not in a captain's way, sort of cajoling and getting everyone going, but he'll lead by example. He'll be full of it in the dressing room. Just a bit of a joker. He'll probably set the tone in terms of sort of the banter that goes on in there and stuff like that. But just I say a winner. I mean, when he was younger, I mean, you'll see. I mean, he was famously sent off against Burnley. Brighton had 2 players sent off in the first 10 minutes under Gus Poyet, and yeah, he'd obviously he crossed the line a couple of times. There was the incident with the referee at Bolton where he served a lengthy suspension, but he might have crossed the line, a couple of times since, but he always managed to curb that aggression. Like I say, he was always in the middle of sort of winding players up and trying to gain little percentages on the pitch, but he never. That aggression never got the better of him again, really, at Burnley. And I see he could just bank on him week in, week out. Even when he wasn't performing well, he'd give you absolutely everything. And he might bring the best out of someone else alongside him. The Jay Rodriguez's and people like that. Again, experienced players who just love playing alongside him, as well as the younger lads who will have that all the ability in the world, but you need that know-how. You need to know how to win games, and he's certainly got that.
Yeah, and 3 championship promotions in his last 3 seasons with Burnley, I think sum that up, don't they? Chris, thank you so much. A brilliant bit of insight there from Chris Boden. Ashley Barnes is Norwich City's first signing of the summer. I suspect he won't be the last. Strap yourselves in. I think it's going to be a busy one. But yeah, Ashley Barnes is in the door, signing number 1 done for Norwich City.